All right, Happy Aftermath, Part 2. What's Aftermath, Mike? Well, I kind of explained it in the previous video, the Part 1, which I'll revisit here in a second. But it's kind of a holiday I invented for myself, which I have shared with my friends, and now you're all kind of in my circle of friends, so if you wish to partake as well, please do. It's my response to the stress of the big November, December holidays. And the end of the year can be very happy times, but they can be very stressful, anxiety-producing, and even depressing for certain people. So, my thought is, you wait until it's all over, and then sometime maybe in January, or depending on how your January goes, could also be in February, you pick a day, or maybe more than one day, and you do whatever you want. Have a gathering, have a meal, do something for yourself, do something for somebody else. You do whatever you want, and you celebrate it. Now, I had a rough end of the year, and also I got a couple of things to celebrate that we'll also talk about, so I figured I'd treat myself. In the Part 1 video, I'm referring to my review of the Ronin Katana Euro number 9 Type 12 arming sword, which is this one, which I got from SBG Sword Buyer's Guide. They got a number of things back in stock at some really good prices. This was $275, and if you've done business with SBG before, they often have a 2-for-1 deal on the shipping. So for a flat $20 rate in the US, you can get one sword or two for 20 bucks. And since they had a couple of intriguing things in stock, I decided to go ahead and treat myself to two. Save myself $20. Now, back there on the wall, I compared the Type 12 arming sword in that previous video to my Type, well actually it's the Euro number 4 Italian arming sword. A sword that I got, well, a while back, and I like it a lot. Really impressed with the construction, the quality, and the handling, especially for the price. Now, given that Italian arming sword, one of the things about it is it has a fishtail pommel, and I'm a personal fan of fishtail pommels. This is their number 5 Italian longsword. So let's take a look at the specs, the things I like and might not be terribly crazy about it. And we'll do a comparison to my other Italian longsword, which is the cold steel. So let's get to it. All right, let's start by getting the scabbards, well, literally out of the way first. The cold steel, I'm pretty pleased with their scabbards. They're not fantastic, but they're certainly functional and not terribly ugly or anything. You've got a leather-covered scabbard, even though the leather feels just a little bit loose. It's got metal shape, metal throat, nothing fancy, nothing to hang it from or anything like that. You kind of have to figure that out yourself. And it's shaped very nicely for the shape of the guard. This is a very attractive guard shape and also very comfortable because of the way it's slightly swept forward for me. Really like it. Fit, pretty good. It has a wood core, and it fits pretty well, draws pretty well. Not super tight, though. I might wind up having to shim it, but there's that. Now, spin around here. Ronin Katana European swords. Well, I think all of them come with the same hanger setup, which is these two little belt straps with the buckles, and then it comes with a matching, well, I hesitate to call it a belt because it's pretty flimsy, and this is all fake leather. I feel like the scabbard is covered in actual real leather with the seam on the side. Now the cold steel's got the seam right down the middle of one side, so that's a difference. You have a metal shape, but no metal throat. It is shaped to fit the guard, but I had an issue with this design with the Italian arming sword in that it loosened up over time. Scabbard kept falling off the thing, and I had to shim it. And since I've shimmed it, well, it's doing a lot better, and it's not that hard a job. Now, right now, the retention on this thing, it's okay, but you've already kind of heard just from some of my handling that, yeah, it's rattling a lot down this end. So this end of the scabbard doesn't fit this blade very well at all. So that's just kind of annoying. I might have to do something about that. But otherwise, well, it's a serviceable scabbard. And for $285 at SBG, I got a pretty nice sword with a scabbard. So let's take a look at the other specs on this particular piece. Okay, quick apology because I'm not going to be able to do a lot of handling because I'm stuck inside. We just got off about 2 weeks of record snowfall that shut me in, followed by record rain. So the snow is gone, but so is my yard. It is now a lake, at least for now. Weather just hasn't been cooperating with me. I hope I at least get a good spring this year to get outside, which is doubly important when it comes to long swords or any weapon of this length. Now, as I demonstrated in other videos, when it comes to swords with shorter blades, say, 28, 31 inches, if I'm careful and conscientious, I can move them around and train with them indoors. But something of this length, I really can't move around freely without destroying the ceiling and the walls and the furniture and everything else. So that really restricts my opportunities, which is sad because I'm already liking longsword in my short experience with HEMA. And part of it is the crossover, certainly, not only to something like a two-handed Chinese gen, but if you're a student of Japanese-style swordsmanship, a two-handed sword with this particular one has an 11¼ inch grip. That's going to sound really familiar to anybody who handles an uchi katana. There's a lot of similarities in technique that allow a good entry point. There's also a lot of differences, and I do plan to do videos on those topics when I can get outside and do some comparisons, which would include performance comparisons and cutting and things like that. But for now, let's quickly revisit this cold steel Italian. I featured it in a couple of videos, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. It's not what the video is about after all. But very impressed with it. It's surprisingly light at 2 pounds 14 ounces with a 4-inch point of balance, diamond cross section, razor sharp edges all the way down. Right? This is, for the limited amount of cutting I've managed to do, this thing is an impressive slicer. Like the shape of the guard, as I've mentioned a million times, I love my fishtail pommels because they let me choke all the way down here, no hot spots. It just feels really good for my bottom hand. Now, this is not a very developed fishtail as compared to the Ronin that we're going to look at, and it is a threaded construction. But it stayed solid. Now, one thing I'm not crazy about, or have come to not be crazy about this sword, is the grip. It's a very straight grip, very plain. It does have 2 risers here, which are about at the bottom of my right hand, but it's covered in a piece of leather that is stitched on one side. And it is glued down, it is tight, but it's a very soft, kind of spongy leather. So between the smoothness of the grip and that texture, it feels squishy. It feels like I'm wearing gloves when I'm not wearing gloves. If that makes any sense. So I just don't feel like I have the most confident grip on this sword. But otherwise, it's held up pretty well. All right, so Mike decided to buy another Italian longsword because I like the aesthetics and the specs were promising. Now, what are the main differences versus similarities? Okay, first of all, instead of a 35.5 inch blade, you've got a 36.5 inch blade. It's a little bit longer, but a little bit shorter in the grip. It's a 10-inch grip. But again, with that nice fishtail, I can get my left hand all the way down on here. People have complained that the fishtails on the Ronins are a little bit sharp, but I'm not feeling that at all. This just feels just really good to have my hand down here, at least for the time I've spent with it, and, well, the arming sword as well, which I've spent a lot more time with. I just got these today. So I spent a couple of hours handling it, and so far I really like the way it handles. But back to the blade. 36.5 inch blade weighs, well, more than the cold steel, 3 pounds 3 ounces, point of balance 4¼ so slightly further forward. Talk about handling in a second, but diamond cross section, fuller, 2/3 of the way up, very well shaped blade, very well polished, no secondary bevel, and yes, it is indeed really sharp all the way down both sides. Again, just a little bit down here was left that I could put my fingers on without slicing them. Peen construction, everything is solid. Pommel peen is very clean. Now the pommel fit is not the cleanest. It's not, at least not bent. The Italian arming sword came bent and I had to straighten it out. But it's not terribly even here, and there's just a little bit of a jagged hot spot right there, but it's not totally bugging me. The guard. I've complained about these on the other Ronin swords that they come with very sharp edges. They rounded these off. The slot, I'll get a picture of it. It's a little bit wider than some people would like, but everything's tight and snug. Nice thing though is they rounded off the ends of the quillins, which for me, not having a lot of training and experience in longsword yet, I might forget I don't have an Uchi Katana with a Suba in my hands, and in some of those higher guards I might, poke myself in the scalp. How do I know I might do this? Well, yeah, I've done it before. So having rounded ends on that it's at least a little bit more forgiving for my dome until I learn how to do things right. So that's a nice touch. But I think one of my favorite things is the grip. Just like the other Ronin Euro swords, they went with this cord, leather over cord pattern that's very, very positively grippy. Now it does have a big seam on one side, but here it's kind of tamped down. I don't really feel any hot spots. It doesn't really feel like it's in my way. Kind of like the Italian arming sword after I'd spent a lot of time with it, breaking it in. So this feels kind of pre-broken in that way. This is nice. And that one's held up really well. I expect this one will hold up really well too. But the shape of the grip, the way it wasps in right here from my primary hand, that just fits really, really well. Just hugs my hand, fits right in there, feels a whole lot more positive. And that's if I'm using it in a handshake or thumb on the side. Yeah, it just feels great. And despite the fact that this blade is pretty significantly heavier with a slightly further forward point of balance, slightly shorter grip, like I said, I just got it today. I've only spent a couple hours handling it, moving around, playing with it. Haven't really gotten to do much with it, but yeah, this just feels good. It feels solid. It's got good blade presence. It feels confident in my hand. I can feel the tip. I can feel the edge alignment, and it does not feel, for me, unwieldy at all. So I even feel like I can reasonably use it in one hand, even though it's kind of long for that. Yeah, even in one hand, it doesn't feel horrible. So, 1075 steel compared to 1055 steel, if that makes any difference to you. The cutting I've done with my other one has been pretty satisfying. And I promise I will get around to cutting another comparison performance videos as soon as I can. But initial impressions, first day handling it, I'm pretty impressed. $285, I think I definitely got my money's worth, and I think I'm going to get a lot of use out of it and really enjoy doing so. So, let's get our usual conversation going. If you happen to have this sword or other Ronin Katana European style swords or other European style swords, let me know what you think of yours. What you like, what you dislike, any questions you might have about this or any of the other swords that I've acquired recently in my, almost 2 years going on exploration of HEMA. Happy to answer any questions you have. Love having our conversations. But, as usual, until next time, thanks for watching, liking, following, subscribing, and I hope to see you back for, well, whatever I manage to get to next.